Did it work? There we go. I think we're live.
Hi, my name is Brenda Reese. I'm a transformation and forgiveness coach. Coming to you weekly on Thursdays at 9 a.m. Pacific to answer some questions that people have. Because the more that we can understand about forgiveness, the more I think it makes it more palatable and easier for us to be able to incorporate into our lives. Because when we look at forgiveness differently, we can actually change our relationship with ourselves, with life, and with other people. And I was having a great conversation with my friend Kim. And so we decided that let's have this live conversation around a question that had come up. And we had a great conversation. So we want to revisit that. Hey, Kim.
Hi there. Thank you so much for having me and inviting me. Our conversation, I know it happened super organically, but I got so much out of it and I'm really glad that you're willing to share it. So I thought maybe I'll just kind of ask the question again and we'll just get into, I don't think that we'll necessarily be able to duplicate all of the information, but
Right.
I'm really looking forward to kind of diving into it. So the question that I had is about, I don't always know how to let go without forgiving, but also I'm not in a place where I'm ready to forgive that person. And so it feels so twisted, right? My brain wants to forgive, but my body just isn't in a place where it can do it.
Absolutely. And it's like we can't rush into forgiveness. And I love the fact of when people take the time and feel like, I'm not ready yet. I'm just not to that place yet. And so the circumstance is like if we have someone that has betrayed us or hurt us, and then what we are doing is like, usually what happens is the universe gives us this beautiful example of seeing that person again, right?
Which is what
Or
happened,
hearing,
right?
yeah, is exactly what happened. And so we see that person again, or we hear about them, or something comes up, and we get to see where we're at, right? Where am I at with this? And it's like, okay, it doesn't hurt so much anymore. Yet, I still don't want to. And what happens there is there's a couple things, depending upon the depth of the betrayal, because we all have a pattern of betrayal. We all have that. And if we look at our kind of our timeline or our relationship, when we look at our inventory of our life, we'll find this betrayal. But what it is what we're going to look at is we're going to look at the fact of what am I holding on to? Like you and I were talking about, what is the story? What is the attachment that I still have towards this person and how they had me feel? This is how it feels. Like this person made me feel this way.
Right.
But the conversation you and I had was, wait a minute, did they make you feel that way? Or is there something inside you that got triggered by this other person? Because really, it's usually not about the other people. And I know this is a hard pill to swallow, but it's usually not about the other person. Like someone cannot make me feel a certain way unless I feel it inside myself already, unless I have that inside me, right?
Right.
And so I think it's valuable to be able to witness that for ourselves. It's like, okay, this person is, I'm feeling a certain way. Or we can say that this person made me feel this way. And so then we get to look at that and go, where else have I felt that way? And that's what you and I talked about. Where else have I felt this way in my life? And this is the beauty, and this is where we can do our own work, is where we can just kind of look back and all of our I call it a relationship timeline, or we can call it a relationship inventory. And relationships are huge, right?
Right.
Huge. And
Huge.
so we bring them and we take a look at starting now this person and go backwards. Where else have I felt this way before? Because when you and I were talking, it's like at first there was a big sting. At first it was like, I don't even want to talk to this person.
Right.
See them, nothing, they did this. But then seeing them again, there was a feeling of what was the word that you had used? Um,
When I went to kind of indifference with it. So it was interesting.
Indifference.
It was interesting because when we had this situation happen forever ago, I got to be back in front of this person, and it was interesting to me because in the work that I've done, that we've done so far, I
Yeah.
kind of got to a place where I didn't have that like knee jerk reaction and going into like fight mode, right, or anger mode,
Mhm.
or whatever. but I also, there was a part of me that didn't want to give them forgiveness. I'm just going to say it bluntly. I know
Yeah.
it's not what we're supposed to say, but I didn't want to give them that, right?
Yeah.
It's like, I want to say that I've forgiven them and move on without them getting any benefit of it, which is
Yeah.
a little bit backwards. But again, that's part of what my body was doing and my brain was doing. It was like, I don't want to give you this power of my frustration and my sadness and my anger, but
Right.
also I don't know how to give you forgiveness, but I want to let go of this. And so when I'd come to you, I'd said, I feel like I got to a place of indifference, meaning I don't feel angry. My body didn't get hot inside. You know how it does when you're having an emotion.
Mhm.
I didn't get, shaky and nervous and frustrated. I did definitely went to a place of peace and indifference, but I don't know how to go from there to forgiveness, to feel like I'm giving it to myself and not
Mhm.
giving them something. It's that little ego part of it still, I think, for me.
Well, yeah, thank you so much for saying that, because when we talked about indifference, indifference can have that different feeling, right? So you can go peaceful indifference, and some people can stay there, right?
Okay, yeah.
Or you can go to neutrality. Now, neutrality to me is more of where I really feel okay about myself. They don't bother me at all. Like I just feel okay and peaceful in my body. Neutrality for me, and it can be the same depending upon how people look at the words,
Sure.
indifference, neutrality. As long as you're doing it with peace, then my question is really, is there anything there to forgive? Because if you have gotten to this place, or anyone's gotten to a place of kind of peace within themselves around this, the work might have already been done. My question is this, I love to remind people that it's not about the other person at all. This is the biggest way to look at forgiveness, that we have to work up to, like you and I talked about, is a fact of that it's not about that person. They're the messenger.
Right.
They are actually identifying something inside of me that needs to get worked on, right? It's something that I've denied, repressed, or rejected about myself. So really, every relationship is a mirror. Okay. Now, it doesn't mean that we have to reconcile with that person or have a relationship with that. Like you were saying, it's like, I don't really need to be involved with this person at all, but I want to feel good within myself. And when we had dove deeper into it, it's like, well, I may not be at that total place of peace yet.
Right.
So now we identify that, we get to kind of neutrality, because this is the sign of forgiveness. When we can see the person and not get a reaction, right? Then we know we're on the right track. So that's one of those signs that when people ask me about, well, how do you know when you've been forgiven? Well, what you experienced was that. It's like, oh, I'm there. Then the other place would be, let's identify within your body, where else do you feel a tug? You don't feel the flush. You don't get that immediate kind of reaction, that kind of anger, or that, betrayal, that withdrawal, that they did this to me.
Right.
It can be now, is there anywhere in your body that you feel any kind of angst or a tension or a tug or a blah, or do you really feel peace when you think of that person?
Yeah, and I feel like you had, and it's funny because in even now in recollecting the conversation, right?
Yeah.
I'm going through my body, going, where do I feel it? And I definitely do feel it, kind of in the pit of my stomach a little bit. It's not in my face or in my head. It's not making my, this
Mhm.
happen. But I'm definitely having to breathe, even in kind of recalling the situation. I'm breathing through and kind of, and I can feel it in my gut. But I'm actually glad we're having this conversation because I need step two, which is you had talked to me a little bit about something about the bee and the sting, and I don't remember all of the
Mhm.
information. Can you talk to me a little bit more about that? Remind me.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for bringing that up, because what we're going to look at is we are going to separate the person. We're going to look at this whole situation as like separating the bee from the sting. So we have the bee, we have the catalyst, we have the little bee. The bee is just a bee, right? The person's just a person.
Right.
So the bee is just a bee. Now the sting, though, if I got stung and I continually get mad at the bee for doing something that it was supposed to do,
Right.
well, then this wound is going to still hurt and hurt and hurt and hurt, because what I focus on, right, expands. So when we can look at these forgiveness situations or these people as separating the bee from the sting, this is the part of forgiveness that traditional forgiveness, or what we don't learn in forgiveness, most of us don't learn.
Right.
And that is the ability to go, we can look at it this way. We separate the bee from the sting. We separate the fact from interpretation. This person did this, but what did I make up about it? What is the sting? And am I ready to put the salve on it? Or am I ready to just keep being angry
Right.
at the sting?
That, honestly, I really appreciate that clarity, because again, it's not about the bee. The bee's doing what the bee's going to do, what the bee's going to do. But what I feel like you're saying is that, so now I've got the sting. What am I going to do? Am I going to let it just sit in there and fester? Am I going to pull it out and let the open wound just kind of be gross? Or am I going to, like you said, put the salve on it, right? Put the salve on it, heal it, love it, be kind to it, right? Because now we're talking about me again, which
Right.
has nothing to do with the bee. Okay,
Yeah.
so we're watching real time Kim understand that analogy right now. I was today years old when I learned this. This is wonderful.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. But it's true. And I'm not saying that it's easy.
No.
I'm not saying that it's easy to not blame someone else. I get that, especially when we've been hurt and wounded. And I want everyone to know that.
Yeah, and
It's
not
not
to interrupt, but exactly what you're saying
yeah,
is that makes me go, oh, why would I not want to heal this wound for myself? Why would I leave this big open gaping, bee sting open, unhealed and infected, just to spite the bee? Why would I do that? I
right.
think I should stop doing that.
Yeah. Well, because the bee is going to go on. The bee lives his life. The bee lives her life. The bee lives their life, right?
That's
I mean, the bee goes on, and this is what's so frustrating to a lot of people is the fact that they tell me, Brenda, this person is going on, and they look like they're living a great life, and I'm the one that's suffering. And it's
yeah,
like, yeah, let's take a clue from that, and let's go. Yes, they are moving on. Maybe there was a reason for this interaction. Maybe the reason was that this person was supposed to show you what was subconsciously or unconsciously there for you to be able to heal for yourself. Because we are, right? We are our own gurus. And so, but we get to have relationships to show us what's inside of us that I haven't quite got to. What's another layer, or what is this thing that is blocking me from being the person or doing what I'm meant to do? So, because when I'm harboring any kind of blame or shame or guilt, that energy is going outside of me. It's not right here.
right.
I can't be creative. I can't be in abundance. I can't manifest. I can't do anything when I don't have the energy within me to be able to do that. And when I am, there's an adage, right? When we're going out like that, what do I have left for me? Why would I do that? Like you just said, why wouldn't I want to heal the wound?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't I want to feel more whole
Yeah.
and peaceful and more loving towards myself? Well, the reason is because we've got these wounds.
Right.
And once we can identify them, once we can pull the stinger out, let the bee go on its way, we do our own work, we quit giving the bee our energy and our time, then we can go, oh, because I'm the only one that I
Yeah.
can do anything about.
Yeah.
And so, but like I said, it's not easy. It's a process, but it can be done.
Yeah.
There's people that I help all the time. And it's just like you having this conversation together was like, you're like, oh my God, that's right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And it is, and it's really important. So people can figure out the relationship timeline. Like, where else have I felt this way before?
Mm.
Look at the person as a bee. If that's, let's use our visualization here. And it's like, okay, the bee is going to go on, but yet how, can I heal this wound for myself? We can identify it, we can get curious about it, and we can start writing how we feel about it. Where else have I felt this way before? And we can
Right.
identify a pattern, and then we can do more work around it. Now, the other piece is if you want to reconcile with that person, right? If that person is important, you don't really want them to go. Like you were saying with this person, it didn't really matter. You didn't need
Right.
to be in a relationship. You just wanted to feel more free
That's right.
yourself from it. And you don't want that tug in the gut, right? Because that's
Yeah.
how it's, forgiveness is about untying the knot. It's about feeling the knot in our body. It's about untying that. And so when we do want to have a relationship with them, it's important to be able to set some boundaries, right?
Right.
On how we
Right.
should do our own work and then ask ourselves, how do I want to be in relationship with them? What is in this relationship for me? And then I can decide how I want to show up. And then we look at our values. Does this person, do they actually fit into my values, this
Right.
relationship?
Right.
Yeah. And then the boundaries around that, having those boundaries, which a lot of us don't have, but they're easy to create for ourselves.
Well, and I
When
think
we're
that's kind of an interesting point too, right? Because for me, like I really do feel comfortable saying, I am done with that relationship. I do want to get the lessons and move on.
Yeah.
But also, what if, I mean, what I'm hearing is like, what if I thought that I didn't want to let go of that relationship, but with a new mindset and a new set of boundaries, what if I said, okay, I do want to be in that relationship, but I need to set some new boundaries. But then what if I learn through those boundary setting that either A, yes, it's a good fit for me to have that
Mhm.
relationship again, or maybe it's not a good fit with my new boundaries. Maybe I really don't want to be in that human's space anymore. I hadn't
Yeah.
thought of it that way.
Well, yeah, and that's how you find out. We've gotta set those boundaries first. We've gotta know what it is that we want from this relationship or be in this relationship. That's something we don't really think about. We're not taught to think about that. Why are you in relationship? Most of the time, we're in relationships that remind us of that original bee sting, the original wound.
Okay.
So relationships are for growth and healing. And so every relationship we have is to show us something
Mm,
about ourselves. So therefore, when I set boundaries, then I can say, because not everybody's meant to to go with us throughout our whole life.
right.
Sometimes, right? Sometimes they have different reasons for it. So what we want to do is determine at this right here in this part of my lifetime, is this really going to feed the values and the boundaries that I have or not? And then we can lovingly release or let go of that relationship. And a lot of people now are going through this. A lot of people are saying to me, Brenda, I feel alone because there's so many people that are leaving. And it's
Mhm.
like, well, this could be a good thing because
Yeah.
evidently, even though it's sad and we need to feel our feelings, we have to feel our feelings safely. The grief around that of what we had or what could have been, now we get to go, oh, now there's space for more relationships that are actually really congruent with the work that I'm doing today.
Right.
Right. And I think that that's really valuable to have. So going from like the wound to an evolution of, ooh, maybe this is happening for me. And that's a reach. Right. And what part of me needed this, right? What did I need to have exposed so that I could do some work around it if I'm willing?
Right.
And then setting boundaries on that relationship or newer relationships, right? And then being able to, because that's what sets us up for moving forward the way that we want to move forward, not based on our wounds or how people tell us we need to be.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think it's a little uncomfortable to say, why did I bring this? Why did I want this? What did I need in my life for this? Right? Because I'm too busy wanting to stab these people that are being mean to. I mean, just right.
Yeah. Yeah.
But there is something to that. It almost, when you said that, it almost kind of takes the power away from the bee, right? To just use the
Yes.
same analogy, because if and when I get to the place where I go, okay, well, I brought this into my life. Why? What did I want? What did I need? What did the universe, whatever spiritual you believe in, says, you need this lesson. So
Yeah.
once I can get to the place where I go, okay, why did I need this? Even that feels better in my gut. Like, even that makes me go, oh, it really isn't about the bee. The bee can go pollinate and do whatever it should magically do. Thank you. And now it has nothing to do with that any longer. That's
Right.
interesting.
Right. Because what it does is it brings us back to ourselves, which that's what we run away from a lot of times because it's so much easier to blame. So it's
Way
trust
more fun.
I know. I catch myself doing it even today, right? But I'm catching myself a lot quicker. And that's
Love
the whole thing because we're not in charge of our first thought, but we're in charge of every thought after that. So we can be
it.
right? So we can blame or we can be judgmental, right? Because the first one it's instinct. We're going to do that, but we can go, "Oh, wait a minute, Brenda, back her down. What is in this for me to look at?" Okay? And maybe we check that first without judgment
Hmm.
for ourselves, just like, okay, what is there here for me? And sometimes it doesn't show up right away. So journaling is really important or talking it out with a friend. And then a friend, because usually they can go, oh, that's just like your ex-husband. The friend's like, oh, crap, that guy you dated or that girl you dated or they that you dated, whoever that was, you know what I mean? It can be,
Yeah.
well, and that's like that. I mean, there's nothing like a good friend to
Be rude.
remind you
Rude.
of the things that you can't quite remember.
Right. Right.
Right. And that's so valuable. It really is to go, oh, and we connect that dot and then we can do something about it. I can't do something about something I don't know is there.
Right. You said, and I've never heard this before, and I promise we won't go on for 4 years, but when you said this was interesting because you said you're not in charge of your first thought,
Right.
but you are in charge of every thought after that. That is really interesting. I'm going to sit with that for a little while,
Okay.
but that's a really interesting concept because I do judge my first thoughts significantly because I go, oh, I just don't want that thought to come in because if that thought comes in, then that leads me down this road of whatever. I never thought for a minute that the first thought, it's okay to have it come in. I never thought to give that permission and go, thank you.
Yes.
I'm going to think something else now, or I'm going to process through that. That's really interesting, Brenda.
Yeah, that's what we call pausing, right? So this is the responding versus reacting. And
Okay.
so we get to use this in our relationship. So it really ties in because when I have my first thought, instead of beating myself up, which we all do,
Right.
just kind of going, oh, there you are. Okay. All right. I know. And it's like we can sit with that for a little bit. And then we can go, okay, now how do I want to process this? How do I want to feel? How do I want to think? Because when we can just practice
Right.
pausing, take that judgment or whatever that thought is and go, "Woo, I see you." Like you said, thank you. Thank you for being there.
Mhm.
Stop, take a breath. Huge. There's nothing like a reset than a deep breath. There's nothing. I mean, and it's free and it's right here. But we
Yeah.
just have to practice. We just have to go because we're taught. I mean, we're wired to go, let's go judgment, judgment, judgment because it's safety,
Right.
right? We're going to judge everything around us. So if we do this and go, here's the thought, I see you. Let me sit with this. And if we can practice that, because it's a practice, forgiveness is a process and a practice, and any kind of transformation work is. But if we can do that, then we're not so hard on ourselves. And then we can stop, we can create that new pathway, right? Instead of the original pathway of down spiral,
Right.
to shame.
Right. And the guilt and the
And the
self degradation, all
oh,
of it.
yep. Instead of that, then we can go, how do I want to think? And maybe we don't know. Like you said, let me sit with this because maybe I don't know. But you will know because you've given yourself the space.
I love this. Thank you so much. Like, really, so helpful. Like, so helpful. And again, I feel like every time we talk, it kind of unpeels another layer, and I get to go, okay, let me go do my homework and let's talk again soon.
Yes, exactly.
Because I'm going to need to go another layer down.
Love it. And that's just it. We take it easy. We take it slow. We can't get there fast. I know we want to. I do. I have that microwave mentality. Give it to me now. But yeah,
Well,
but we're
I
going to take
appreciate
it
it.
easy.
I appreciate
Good.
it so much. The one-on-one time that I have with you is invaluable to me. I'm just so grateful for it. And I think everybody in the whole wide world should have some one-on-one time with you.
Thank you. Thank you, Kim. I really appreciate your vulnerability and your willingness to be so honest and truthful, because I think it helps so many people. Because I love how you have the ability to speak out loud what we're thinking in our head. I love
my,
it.
my filter left a little bit ago. It's all right.
It's okay. I am so grateful for you.
Thank you. Thank
All
you.
right. Take care.